The power of the pause. There's a silence most people never hear. It exists between words, in the still air between one sentence and the next. It's the space where truth lives. Most people spend their lives trying to fill that silence. They talk to be heard. They speak to be seen. But the wise, they listen. They observe. They understand what others miss. Not because they say more, but because they speak less. In a world that celebrates loudness, speed, and self-promotion, the real power belongs to those who master restraint, those who know that every unnecessary word weakens their presence. That silence, when chosen deliberately, can speak louder than noise. This is not just about speaking less, it's about understanding more. It's about learning to listen, not only to others but to yourself, to life, and to the moments that reveal what words cannot. You are about to begin a journey, not into more information, but into deeper awareness. By the end of this audiobook, you will understand how silence can transform your relationships, sharpen your mind, and connect you more deeply to the world around you. So, take a breath. Slow down. Let's step into the quiet and discover what it's been trying to tell you all along. Chapter 1. The noise we don't notice. Have you ever stopped and noticed the noise? Not the traffic, not the chatter of a crowded room, but the kind of noise that lives inside your mind. The endless stream of thoughts, opinions, judgments, and interruptions that you barely realize is always there. It's louder than any street corner. It's more persistent than any notification, and most people never even see it. We are born into a world that prizes speaking over listening, saying over understanding, performance over present. From the moment we can talk, we are encouraged to fill space with words, and so we do. We talk to be noticed. We talk to be validated. We talk to convince, to defend, to explain. But in all this noise, we miss something far more important, the quiet moments that reveal the truth of what is really happening around us and within us. Consider a crowded cafe, people laughing, voices overlapping, cups clinking against saucers. You might think it's just background sound, but if you pause and listen, really listen, you'll hear the patterns. A nervous hesitation in someone's voice. A sigh that carries more meaning than the words themselves. The subtle exchange of glances that speaks volume. This is the world most people overlook because they are too busy talking, too busy filling their own noise. The first step towards speaking less and understanding more is awareness. Awareness of the noise that surrounds you and the noise that lives inside you. Without this awareness, silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels empty, and yet it is precisely in that space, that pause between the words, that moment before the reaction, where understanding begins to grow. You may ask yourself, why does silence hold such power? The answer is simple. Silence allows perception to deepen. When you speak less, you stop projecting your thoughts onto the world. You stop trying to fill every space with your own story. And in that absence of self-interruption, you start noticing things you've never seen before. You hear layers of meaning that were invisible when your own words were always in the way. I want you to imagine for a moment that your words are like a spotlight. They illuminate what you want the world to see, but the rest of the room remains in shadow, and sometimes the truth hides in those shadows. Only when you turn the spotlight off, when you stop speaking and start observing, do the hidden details become visible. People's intentions, emotions, subtle cues, patterns that reveal more than 1,000 explanations ever could. This doesn't mean you should never speak. Far from it. Words have power, but they are at their strongest when chosen carefully, deliberately, with intention. Every word you release should carry weight. Every sentence should serve understanding, connection, or truth. Speaking less is not silence for its own sake. It is the art of conserving your voice so that it becomes meaningful when it finally emerges. I've met people who speak constantly, yet understand almost nothing. And I've met those who speak rarely, yet can read a room, a person, or a situation as if the details were written on their skin. The difference isn't intelligence. It's not experience. It's the ability to embrace silence, to resist the urge to fill it, and to pay attention to what exists beyond the words. Let's take a simple example from everyday life. Imagine a friend is upset. One person immediately responds with advice, analysis, or reassurance, words flying in every direction. Another person sits quietly, listening, allowing the pauses to breathe. They notice the hesitation, the tone, the unspoken weight behind the words. When the second person finally speaks, their words are precise, meaningful, and deeply understood. That is the power of speaking less. That is the power of understanding more. Silence is also a mirror. When the world goes quiet, you are forced to confront your own thoughts, your own biases, your own need to be seen and heard. Most people run from this mirror because it is uncomfortable, but it is only when you face it that growth begins. Only when you sit in quiet self-awareness do you discover the truths you have been avoiding, your insecurities, your assumptions, your habitual reactions. All are revealed in the stillness. In this first chapter, we are planting the seeds for a journey that will transform the way you communicate, connect, and perceive the world. Understanding begins, not with clever words, but with deliberate silence. Listening is not a passive act, it is an active engagement with the world around you. And speaking less is not a limitation, it is a liberation. Take a moment now, if you will, and notice the spaces in your life where words dominate unnecessarily. Notice how often you speak without thinking, react without observing, explain without understanding, and imagine the power you would have if you could step back, pause, and choose your words with intention. Imagine how much deeper your understanding could be if you allowed the world and the people around you to speak first, without interruption, without judgment, without rush. This is not a suggestion to withdraw from life or to isolate yourself. It is an invitation to participate more fully, to engage with presence, to allow your attention and awareness to expand, because the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. The noise becomes background, the words become tools, and understanding emerges as your most reliable guide. By the end of this chapter, I want you to feel a subtle shift, a sense of possibility, a recognition that there is a different way to move through the world. Speaking less is not just about restraint, it is about power, clarity, and insight. Understanding more is not about knowledge alone, it is about presence, perception, and empathy. As we prepare to move into the next chapter, remember this: the journey towards speaking less and understanding more begins with noticing the noise, both around you and within you. And once you notice it, you have a choice. You can continue to feed it, or you can learn to step back, to pause, to listen, and to see what has always been there, waiting for your attention. The door to deeper awareness is now open. Beyond it lies a practice, a discipline, and a way of being that will change how you relate to yourself, to others, and to the world. And in the next chapter, we will step through that door together, exploring the mirror of silence, the space where transformation truly begins. Chapter 2: The Mirror of Silence. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing alone in a quiet room. Not the polite quiet of an empty office, not the kind of quiet interrupted by notifications or small talk, but a profound, uninterrupted silence. At first it feels strange, even uncomfortable. You notice the rhythm of your own breathing, the subtle tension in your shoulders, the thoughts you didn't even realize were racing through your mind. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the silence begins to speak. Silence is a mirror. It reflects not only the world around you, but the world inside you. Most people avoid this mirror because it reveals things they'd rather ignore: fears, insecurities, desires, and patterns that repeat over and over without conscious awareness. But what if, instead of avoiding it, you leaned into it? What if you allowed the quiet to illuminate the unseen corners of your mind and your heart? Think of the last conversation you had that left you unsettled. Perhaps it was a disagreement or a moment of tension with someone you care about. What if, instead of reacting immediately, you had paused, truly paused, and listened to the unspoken words, the emotions beneath the words, the energy in the space between sentences? In that silence, the truth of the moment often becomes unmistakably clear. The mirror of silence is not about isolation. It is about awareness. It is about seeing clearly without the distortion of constant commentary. When you learn to stand before this mirror, you begin to notice not only what others are communicating, but what they are withholding. You start to recognize patterns in behavior, nuances in tone, the subtle movements of body language that reveal more than speech ever could. Consider the way a great listener behaves. They do not interrupt. They do not rush to fill the space with their own narrative. They remain present, patient, and observant. In the act of listening, they learn more than the loudest speaker could ever reveal. And in the moments of silence they create, others feel seen, understood, and acknowledged. This is the hidden power of speaking less. It is the gateway to understanding more. Silence also reflects back to you your own tendencies. It exposes the parts of yourself that demand attention, the impulses to respond before thinking, the compulsion to explain, justify, or defend. These are not weaknesses, they are simply habits you can choose to observe and over time reshape. In the mirror of silence, you become your own teacher. You see where your energy is wasted and where it can be focused with purpose. Imagine a situation at work, in a meeting, or even in a personal relationship. Someone says something that triggers a reaction in you. The old pattern is immediate. Speak first, defend yourself, assert your position. But now, you pause. You breathe. You allow the silence to expand just long enough to notice the underlying currents, the motives, the fears, the assumptions. By the time you respond, your words carry clarity, calm, and precision. They are no longer scattered, reactive, or defensive. They have weight because they emerge from understanding, not impulse. Silence is a discipline, and like any discipline, it requires practice. The first attempts may feel uncomfortable, you may feel exposed, your mind may race, but each time you allow yourself to simply be, without filling the space with noise, you strengthen your presence. You build an inner authority that does not rely on volume, speed, or constant assertion. You cultivate a space where observation becomes your guide, reflection becomes your mentor, and understanding becomes your natural state. There is also a subtle humility in silence. It reminds us that we do not have to know everything, explain everything, or be heard at every moment. It teaches patience, patience with others, patience with life, and patience with ourselves. It teaches us that listening is an act of respect, not weakness, that attention is a gift, not a concession, and that understanding is more valuable than agreement. Let me share a simple observation from daily life. Watch a child at play. Notice how they listen before they speak. They absorb, they watch, they reflect. Their questions come not from the need to assert knowledge, but from genuine curiosity. In silence, they are fully present. In silence, they learn more in 10 minutes than many adults learn in 10 hours of talking. This natural curiosity, this openness to understanding, is a reminder that the mirror of silence is accessible to all of us. As you begin to practice this, you may notice a subtle shift in the way people respond to you. Conversations deepen, connections strengthen. The energy in your presence changes. People instinctively respect the space you create, the attention you offer, and the clarity you bring. You begin to realize that understanding is not something you have to demand. It is something that naturally follows when you learn to be still and attentive. This chapter is your invitation to embrace the mirror of silence, to stop running from the quiet, to observe yourself and the world without the distortion of constant commentary, to notice the patterns that go unseen, the emotions that go unspoken, and the opportunities for understanding that exist in every pause. By the end of this chapter, I want you to feel the subtle power of stillness, the kind of power that does not shout but resonates, a power that allows you to step into conversations with clarity, to respond rather than react, and to see with depth instead of skimming the surface. This is the foundation of speaking less and understanding more. It is the space where transformation begins. As we move forward into the next chapter, keep this image in mind. Every pause is a doorway, every moment of silence a mirror. Beyond that mirror lies the art of listening, the skill of absorbing without interruption, of noticing without judgment, and of understanding without needing to speak. When you step through that doorway, you enter a world where communication is no longer measured by volume or speed, but by presence, perception, and awareness. And that is exactly where we are headed next, into the heart of listening, the kind that transforms your mind, your relationships, and the way you experience life itself. The power of the pause. There's a silence most people never hear. It exists between words, in the still air between one sentence and the next. It's the space where truth lives. Most people spend their lives trying to fill that silence. They talk to be heard. They speak to be seen. But the wise, they listen. They observe. They understand what others miss. Not because they say more, but because they speak less. In a world that celebrates loudness, speed, and self-promotion, the real power belongs to those who master restraint, those who know that every unnecessary word weakens their presence. That silence, when chosen deliberately, can speak louder than noise. This is not just about speaking less, it's about understanding more. It's about learning to listen, not only to others but to yourself, to life, and to the moments that reveal what words cannot. You are about to begin a journey, not into more information, but into deeper awareness. By the end of this audiobook, you will understand how silence can transform your relationships, sharpen your mind, and connect you more deeply to the world around you. So, take a breath. Slow down. Let's step into the quiet and discover what it's been trying to tell you all along. Chapter 1. The noise we don't notice. Have you ever stopped and noticed the noise? Not the traffic, not the chatter of a crowded room, but the kind of noise that lives inside your mind. The endless stream of thoughts, opinions, judgments, and interruptions that you barely realize is always there. It's louder than any street corner. It's more persistent than any notification, and most people never even see it. We are born into a world that prizes speaking over listening, saying over understanding, performance over presence. From the moment we can talk, we are encouraged to fill space with words, and so we do. We talk to be noticed. We talk to be validated. We talk to convince, to defend, to explain. But in all this noise, we miss something far more important, the quiet moments that reveal the truth of what is really happening around us and within us. Consider a crowded cafe, people laughing, voices overlapping, cups clinking against saucers. You might think it's just background sound, but if you pause and listen, really listen, you'll hear the patterns. A nervous hesitation in someone's voice, a sigh that carries more meaning than the words themselves, the subtle exchange of glances that speaks volume. This is the world most people overlook because they are too busy talking, too busy filling their own noise. The first step towards speaking less and understanding more is awareness. Awareness of the noise that surrounds you and the noise that lives inside you. Without this awareness, silence feels uncomfortable, stillness feels empty. And yet it is precisely in that space, that pause between the words, that moment before the reaction, where understanding begins to grow. You may ask yourself, why does silence hold such power? The answer is simple. Silence allows perception to deepen. When you speak less, you stop projecting your thoughts onto the world. You stop trying to fill every space with your own story, and in that absence of self-interruption, you start noticing things you've never seen before. You hear layers of meaning that were invisible when your own words were always in the way. I want you to imagine for a moment that your words are like a spotlight. They illuminate what you want the world to see, but the rest of the room remains in shadow, and sometimes the truth hides in those shadows. Only when you turn the spotlight off, when you stop speaking and start observing, do the hidden details become visible. People's intentions, emotions, subtle cues, patterns that reveal more than 1,000 explanations ever could. This doesn't mean you should never speak. Far from it. Words have power, but they are at their strongest when chosen carefully, deliberately, with intention. Every word you release should carry weight. Every sentence should serve understanding, connection, or truth. Speaking less is not silence for its own sake. It is the art of conserving your voice so that it becomes meaningful when it finally emerges. I've met people who speak constantly, yet understand almost nothing. And I've met those who speak rarely, yet can read a room, a person, or a situation as if the details were written on their skin. The difference isn't intelligence. It's not experience. It's the ability to embrace silence, to resist the urge to fill it, and to pay attention to what exists beyond the words. Let's take a simple example from everyday life. Imagine a friend is upset. One person immediately responds with advice, analysis, or reassurance, words flying in every direction. Another person sits quietly, listening, allowing the pauses to breathe. They notice the hesitation, the tone, the unspoken weight behind the words. When the second person finally speaks, their words are precise, meaningful, and deeply understood. That is the power of speaking less. That is the power of understanding more. Silence is also a mirror. When the world goes quiet, you are forced to confront your own thoughts, your own biases, your own need to be seen and heard. Most people run from this mirror because it is uncomfortable, but it is only when you face it that growth begins. Only when you sit in quiet self-awareness do you discover the truths you have been avoiding. Your insecurities, your assumptions, your habitual reactions, all are revealed in the stillness. In this first chapter, we are planting the seeds for a journey that will transform the way you communicate, connect, and perceive the world. Understanding begins, not with clever words, but with deliberate silence. Listening is not a passive act. It is an active engagement with the world around you. And speaking less is not a limitation. It is a liberation. Take a moment now, if you will, and notice the spaces in your life where words dominate unnecessarily. Notice how often you speak without thinking, react without observing, explain without understanding, and imagine the power you would have if you could step back, pause, and choose your words with intention. Imagine how much deeper your understanding could be if you allowed the world and the people around you to speak first, without interruption, without judgment, without rush. This is not a suggestion to withdraw from life or to isolate yourself. It is an invitation to participate more fully, to engage with presence, to allow your attention and awareness to expand, because the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. The noise becomes background, the words become tools, and understanding emerges as your most reliable guide. By the end of this chapter, I want you to feel a subtle shift, a sense of possibility, a recognition that there is a different way to move through the world. Speaking less is not just about restraint, it is about power, clarity, and insight. Understanding more is not about knowledge alone, it is about presence, perception, and empathy. As we prepare to move into the next chapter, remember this: the journey towards speaking less and understanding more begins with noticing the noise, both around you and within you. And once you notice it, you have a choice. You can continue to feed it, or you can learn to step back, to pause, to listen, and to see what has always been there, waiting for your attention. The door to deeper awareness is now open. Beyond it lies a practice, a discipline, and a way of being that will change how you relate to yourself, to others, and to the world. And in the next chapter, we will step through that door together, exploring the mirror of silence, the space where transformation truly begins. Chapter 4. The Power of Restraint. Have you ever noticed how the loudest voices in a room rarely hold the most truth? How conversations can be crowded with words, yet stripped of clarity? There is a hidden power that most people overlook, the power of restraint, the power of knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. It is a force that commands attention without shouting, influences without pressure, and illuminates without overwhelming. Restraint is not weakness. It is not hesitation or indecision. It is the deliberate choice to pause, reflect, and observe before responding. It is the understanding that every word carries weight, and that words spoken without intention often dilute meaning rather than enhance it. In a world addicted to volume, those who master restraint become rare, and yet quietly magnetic. Imagine a heated meeting, where opinions clash and voices rise. Most people react instinctively, defending, insisting, asserting. The person practicing restraint, however, listens first. They allow the conversation to unfold without interruption. They absorb the energy, the tension, the subtle signals beneath the words. And when they finally speak, their words resonate. They are precise. They are measured. They cut through the noise, and the room listens, not because they are louder, but because they speak with intention. Restraint also transforms relationships. Consider a moment of conflict with a friend, a partner, or a colleague. The instinct to respond immediately is strong. Emotions flare, words fly. But when you pause, when you allow space for both yourself and the other person to process, something remarkable happens. Understanding emerges. Empathy deepens. A bridge forms where previously there was only distance. Restraint does not remove your voice, it amplifies it in the moments that truly matter. This discipline extends beyond conversation. It influences thought, action, and presence. Every moment of self-control, every decision to pause before reacting, strengthens your awareness. You become attuned to the subtleties of life, the unspoken cues, the patterns, the nuances that reveal more than words ever could. Your attention becomes sharper, your insight grows deeper, and your influence becomes undeniable, because people feel your calm authority, your mindful presence. Let me share a story. A leader I once observed had a remarkable ability to sit through tense negotiations without speaking more than necessary. Others grew anxious, feeling the need to dominate the discussion. But this leader waited, absorbing every detail, every tone, every hesitation. When they finally spoke, their words settled the room, clarified confusion, and moved the discussion forward with precision. That is the power of restraint, the ability to transform moments of chaos into clarity. Restraint also nurtures wisdom. Words spoken in haste are often shallow, reactive, and fleeting. Words chosen with care carry meaning, insight, and lasting impact. Silence, in this sense, is not emptiness. It is preparation. It is the space in which clarity is forged. And the more you practice restraint, the more natural it becomes to respond rather than react, to communicate with intention rather than impulse. In your personal life, restraint can be transformative. How often have arguments escalated simply because someone felt compelled to respond immediately? How many relationships have strained under the weight of words that were unnecessary, untimely, or poorly considered? By practicing restraint, you learn to preserve energy, protect your influence, and choose your battles wisely. You discover that silence is not absence, it is strategy. Restraint also enhances listening. When you resist the urge to fill every pause with words, you create space for others to reveal more of themselves. Their thoughts, their emotions, their intentions emerge naturally, and as you observe without interruption, understanding deepens. Listening and restraint are inseparable allies. Together, they form the foundation for mastery in communication. The beauty of restraint is that it does not demand perfection. It is not about never speaking, but about speaking with intention. It is about recognizing the value of your voice and reserving it for moments where it matters most. The more you exercise this discipline, the more your words gain significance. People begin to notice the weight behind what you say, because it is rare, deliberate, and meaningful. Now imagine how this principle transforms your interactions. Conversations become richer. Conflicts resolve more smoothly. Your presence commands respect, not through force, but through thoughtful action. People listen, not because you insist, but because they sense your awareness, your understanding, your careful consideration. Influence flows naturally when it is earned through restraint rather than demanded through noise. Restraint also teaches patience. Patience with others, patience with yourself, and patience with life. It reminds you that not every moment requires a response, not every opinion needs expression, and not every situation demands action. By embracing this patience, you create mental clarity and emotional stability. Your mind becomes a quiet center amidst the chaos, and your decisions gain precision. As we draw this chapter to a close, reflect on this. Every moment of silence, every pause before speaking, every conscious decision to restrain your words is an investment in clarity, understanding, and presence. The power of restraint is subtle, but its effects are profound. It transforms communication, relationships, and even your perception of the world. The next chapter will build on this foundation, exploring the art of observation. How attentiveness to details, to emotions, and to the subtle currents of life can reveal truths that words alone cannot convey. If speaking less and listening more form the roots of mastery, then observation is the lens through which understanding blossoms. Prepare yourself to step deeper, to see with greater clarity, and to notice the world in ways that transform not only how you communicate, but how you experience life itself. Chapter 5. The Art of Observation. Look around you. Pause for a moment. Notice the subtle details you might usually overlook. The way sunlight catches the edge of a leaf, the shift in someone's posture as they hesitate before speaking, the rhythm of traffic in the street outside. Observation is more than seeing, it is perceiving. It is noticing the patterns, the nuances, the undercurrents of life that most people miss while rushing through their days. Observation is a skill that multiplies the power of silence and restraint. When you speak less and listen more, observation becomes your compass. It allows you to navigate conversations, relationships, and situations with clarity. You begin to notice not only what is said, but what is left unsaid, the emotions, intentions, and subtleties that carry far more meaning than words ever could. Think of a moment when someone told you something important, yet their true feelings were hidden behind a calm exterior. A slight hesitation, a subtle shift of the eyes, a tremor in the voice. These are the signals that observation reveals. Most people miss them because they are busy formulating their response, busy asserting their point, busy speaking. The observer, however, sees the story beneath the story. Observation is also a mirror for self-awareness. The more you notice in the world around you, the more you notice in yourself. Your reactions, your assumptions, your impulses all become clearer when observed with the same attentiveness you give to others. You begin to recognize your habitual responses, your blind spots, and your triggers. Awareness grows, and with it the ability to choose your actions consciously rather than react automatically. Consider the power this creates in communication. In any dialogue, understanding the nuances of tone, gesture, and timing can completely change your approach. A well-timed pause, a carefully chosen word, or a subtle shift in expression can turn tension into connection. Observation allows you to read the room, to sense the unspoken currents, and to respond with insight rather than impulse. Let me share a story. I once observed a mentor during a difficult negotiation. While others were talking over one another, arguing or defending their positions, this mentor remained quiet, eyes carefully scanning the room. Every hesitation, every sigh, every glance was absorbed. When the mentor finally spoke, it was not to counter or dominate, but to clarify, redirect, and unify. The impact was immediate. Everyone listened, not because of volume, but because of precision and understanding born from observation. Observation also extends beyond human interaction. Life itself communicates in patterns, in habits, in outcomes, in subtle shifts of circumstance. By noticing these patterns, you begin to anticipate, to adapt, and to act with foresight. You see opportunities where others see chaos. You detect risks before they become crises. The observer moves through the world with a quiet intelligence that transforms ordinary moments into powerful insights. It is important to note that observation is not judgment. Noticing patterns or behaviors does not require criticism or evaluation. It is an impartial awareness, a clear-eyed attention to reality as it is, rather than as you hope or fear it to be. This clarity allows you to respond rather than react, to act with purpose rather than impulse. The art of observation deepens your empathy. When you notice the subtle cues in others, you begin to understand their perspective, their emotions, and their unspoken needs. You can respond with compassion and insight, building bridges of trust and connection that words alone often cannot achieve. Observation is the doorway to understanding without assumption, to connection without projection. Practice is the key. Begin with small moments. Watch interactions without speaking. Notice your own reactions. Observe the environment, the people, the flow of life around you. Over time, your perception will sharpen. You will see more clearly, understand more deeply, and navigate life with an intelligence that feels intuitive, almost effortless. Observation also teaches patience. It reminds us that not every truth is immediately visible, not every meaning is instantly revealed. Some insights require quiet attention, careful notice, and the willingness to let understanding unfold naturally. In a culture obsessed with speed, observation offers a counterbalance, a reminder that depth takes time, and clarity requires presence. The rewards of observation are profound. Your relationships improve because you perceive not just words, but needs and intention. Your decisions improve because you see patterns and consequences before acting. Your presence improves because you radiate awareness and attentiveness. And most importantly, your understanding of life deepens because you no longer skim its surface, but engage with its intricate, subtle rhythm. As this chapter comes to a close, consider this: observation is not passive, it is active, deliberate, and transformative. It strengthens the power of silence, magnifies the impact of restraint, and deepens the mastery of listening. Every moment you observe is an investment in clarity, understanding, and presence. In the next chapter, we will explore the art of asking the right questions, how inquiry, curiosity, and thoughtful questioning open doors that observation alone cannot. Observation shows you what exists. Skillful questioning reveals why it exists, and how to engage with it meaningfully. Together, these practices build a foundation for insight, influence, and profound understanding. Prepare to step into a new dimension of awareness, where the questions you ask are as powerful as the answers you seek, and where your curiosity becomes the bridge between observation and true comprehension. Chapter 6. The Art of Asking Questions. Have you ever been in a conversation where every word felt heavy, every statement assumed, every argument rigid? Now imagine the difference if, instead of asserting your viewpoint, you asked a single question, not to challenge, not to trap, but to explore. The right question can transform tension into understanding, confusion into clarity, and silence into connection. The art of asking questions is one of the most powerful tools in the journey of speaking less and understanding more. Questions, when used intentionally, are more than a way to gather information. They are a bridge between what is said and what is truly meant. They invite reflection, reveal hidden thoughts, and unlock insights that words alone often cannot convey. A well-placed question can illuminate the unseen, unravel complexity, and deepen relationships in ways that monologues never can. Consider how often we speak to fill silence rather than to discover meaning. We assert our knowledge, our opinions, our assumptions, believing that the next statement will make the difference. Yet, in truth, we rarely pause to inquire. We rarely ask what lies beneath the surface. Observation and listening guide us to awareness, but questions transform that awareness into understanding. Let's take an example from everyday life. Imagine a colleague expressing frustration about a project. Instead of replying with a solution or defending your position, you ask, "What part of this feels most challenging to you?" That simple inquiry does two things. It shows attentiveness, and it invites clarity. Suddenly, the conversation moves beyond assumptions and becomes collaborative. The dialogue opens, insights emerge, and mutual understanding deepens. The power of questions lies not only in their content, but in their timing and delivery. A question asked too quickly can feel intrusive or defensive. A question asked without sincerity can feel manipulative. But a question that comes from genuine curiosity, delivered with patience, can dissolve barriers, calm tension, and illuminate truth. The art of asking questions is, therefore, inseparable from presence, restraint, and observation. Questions are also a tool for self-discovery. When you ask yourself thoughtful, introspective questions, you activate awareness and reflection. Why do I feel this way? What assumptions am I holding? How might I approach this differently? These questions reveal patterns, expose blind spots, and clarify your intention. They are a form of internal dialogue that sharpens understanding before you even engage with others. The skill of questioning transforms leadership and influence. Leaders who ask, rather than dictate, create environments where ideas flourish and people feel value. They do not rely solely on their knowledge, they leverage the collective insight of those around them. This is not passive leadership, it is intelligent leadership, rooted in awareness, empathy, and understanding. Every question becomes a tool to unlock potential, foster collaboration, and inspire trust. Asking questions also strengthens relationships. Conversations built on inquiry, rather than assertion, shift the dynamic from confrontation to exploration. When you inquire genuinely, people feel heard, respected, and understood. They are more willing to share openly, to trust, and to engage meaningfully. A single thoughtful question can change the trajectory of a dialogue, turning a misunderstanding into clarity, a conflict into cooperation. But there is a subtlety to master. Not all questions are equal. Closed questions that invite a simple yes or no often limit insight. Open-ended questions, however, encourage depth, reflection, and honest. Questions that begin with what, how, or why draw out experiences, emotions, and perspectives. They allow space for nuance, complexity, and human truth to emerge. It is also crucial to balance inquiry with silence. Asking a question is only the beginning. Allowing space for the response, truly listening without interruption or judgment, completes the process. Silence after a question is not awkward, it is fertile. It gives the mind time to formulate thought, the heart time to express feeling, and the soul time to reveal authenticity. The master inquires and waits. The novice inquires and fills the silence too quickly. The art of asking questions extends to understanding situations and systems as well. Life communicates through patterns, consequences, and behavior. By asking reflective questions about circumstances, outcomes, and motives, you gain clarity that observation alone cannot provide. Questions transform passive noticing into active comprehension, allowing you to anticipate, strategize, and respond effectively. Every question you ask is an investment in understanding. The more intentional your inquiry, the deeper your comprehension. The more patient your listening, the more authentic your connection. And the more mindful your delivery, the more profound your influence. Questions, when wielded with skill, are not just tools of conversation, they are instruments of wisdom. As we conclude this chapter, remember this: mastery in communication is not measured by how much you speak, but by the depth of your inquiry. Questions create pathways where words can. They open doors to understanding, empathy, and insight. They guide you toward clarity, reveal hidden truths, and deepen both personal and interpersonal awareness. In the next chapter, we will explore the subtle, transformative power of silence itself, not just the absence of words, but the presence of mindfulness, attention, and unspoken influence. Silence, when paired with listening, observation, and intentional questioning, becomes a force that shapes perception, commands respect, and deepens understanding in ways that speaking alone cannot achieve. Prepare to discover how embracing silence amplifies everything you have learned so far, transforming your communication, your presence, and your understanding of the world. Chapter 7. The Transformative Power of Silence. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world where noise is celebrated, speed is rewarded, and words are equated with value, silence can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. Yet, silence is not emptiness. It is not void. It is a space teeming with possibility, a realm where awareness sharpens, intuition awakens, and understanding deepens. The power of silence is subtle, but when embraced, it transforms not only how we communicate, but how we experience life itself. Consider this. When you remain silent in a conversation, you allow space for more than just words. You allow thought to emerge, emotions to settle, and truths to reveal themselves. Silence amplifies listening. It magnifies observation. It gives power to questions. Without silence, we rush to respond, to assert, to be heard. With silence, every word we speak gains clarity and impact. Think of a moment when someone spoke after you had listened intently and remained quiet. Their response carried weight because they sensed your presence, your attention, and your understanding. In that moment, silence spoke louder than any assertion could. It signaled awareness, authority, and emotional intelligence. It invited trust, reflection, and openness. Silence is also a mirror to self-awareness. When you cultivate moments of stillness, you hear the thoughts that usually get drowned out by noise. You recognize patterns in your thinking, biases in your judgments, and impulses in your reactions. In silence, the mind becomes clear, the heart becomes attuned, and choices gain precision. It is in these quiet moments that true insight is born. But silence is not passive. It requires courage. It demands restraint. It asks you to resist the urge to fill every space with words, to resist reacting instantly, to resist the compulsion to be understood at all costs. The world may interpret silence as indecision or weakness, but in truth, it is strength, the strength to observe, to understand, and to respond with intention. Let me share a story. A wise teacher once instructed a group of students, Speak only when your words improve upon silence. At first, the students were skeptical. How could communication flourish in stillness? But as they practiced, they discovered a profound truth. Their words became sharper, their presence more compelling, their understanding deeper. Silence had transformed them. It had given their voices authority and their listening a new dimension. Silence also enhances empathy. When we resist speaking, we make room for others to express themselves fully. We notice the nuances of tone, the subtlest facial expressions, the unspoken emotions beneath words. We can sense fear, joy, hesitation, and hope, the invisible threads connecting human experience. Through silence, we learn to perceive the unspoken, to understand without needing explanation, and to respond with compassion and insight. Moreover, silence teaches patience. Life does not always reveal its lessons instantly. Emotions do not always settle quickly. Conversations do not always yield clarity immediately. By embracing silence, we learn to wait without tension, to observe without judgment, and to trust that understanding will unfold in its own time. Patience born from silence is not passive waiting. It is active presence, a readiness to engage meaningfully when the moment is right. Silence also strengthens influence. Those who speak less often find that when they do speak, people listen. Their words carry weight because they are measured, intentional, and deliberate. Silence is the amplifier of authority, the subtle command of attention, the quiet confidence that does not need to assert itself through volume. In a room full of noise, the silent voice is the one that resonates. There is also an inner freedom in silence. When you are not compelled to fill every moment with words, you release the pressure to perform, to impress, or to justify. You gain space to think, to breathe, to reflect. You discover that presence itself, simply being attentive, aware, and mindful, can be more powerful than speaking. Silence becomes a sanctuary, a place of clarity, and a source of resilience. Practicing silence does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with the world more fully, with awareness and intention. It is a tool to deepen observation, to enrich listening, and to refine questioning. Every pause, every breath, every moment of quiet is an opportunity to connect more authentically with yourself, with others, and with life itself. As we close this chapter, reflect on the transformative potential of silence in your own life. Notice where you rush to speak, where words dilute meaning, or where reactions cloud understanding. Imagine the impact if you paused, observed, and allowed silence to guide your response. Imagine the clarity, influence, and connection that can emerge when you embrace stillness as a source of strength. The next chapter will explore the harmony of listening and presence, how combining the mastery of silence with deliberate attention creates a state of profound connection and understanding. If silence is the space, listening is the bridge, and together they form the foundation of communication that is not only heard, but truly felt. Prepare to deepen your awareness, to connect on a level beyond words, and to discover the extraordinary potential that lies in the quiet presence of attentive listening. Chapter 8. The Power of Presence. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing in a crowded room. People are talking, moving, exchanging ideas, laughing, arguing. Amid the noise, one person stands out, not because they are loud, but because they are fully present. Every gesture, every word, every glance carries meaning. The energy around them feels alive, and others are drawn to it, even without realizing why. Presence is magnetic. Presence is transformative. Presence is the culmination of all the practices we have explored so far. Being present is more than existing in a moment. It is a conscious choice to bring your full attention, awareness, and intention to whatever is happening right now. When you speak less, observe more, ask thoughtful questions, and embrace silence, presence becomes the natural outcome. It is the intersection where mindfulness meets communication, where awareness becomes influence, and where listening transforms into understanding. Consider the difference between hearing and truly listening. Hearing is passive. It allows sound to pass through without reflection or comprehension. Listening with presence, however, engages the mind, the heart, and even the intuition. It perceives subtleties, reads between the lines, and grasps emotions that words cannot fully convey. Presence makes listening alive. It turns ordinary exchanges into meaningful interactions, and casual conversations into profound connections. Presence is not just about others, it begins with yourself. To be fully present, you must first be aware of your own thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. Notice when your mind wanders to the past or the future. Observe your impulses to react or interrupt. Recognize the distractions that pull you away from the moment. Presence requires self-mastery, the discipline to anchor yourself in the now, regardless of the noise outside or the chaos within. Let me share an example. Imagine a teacher in a classroom, a mentor in a meeting, or a friend in a deep conversation. Those who radiate presence do not dominate or compete for attention. They listen intently, respond thoughtfully, and engage authentically. Their influence comes not from what they say, but from the energy they bring, a clarity and focus that allows others to feel seen, understood, and valued. Presence communicates without speaking, teaching without lecturing, and connecting without effort. Presence also deepens empathy. When you are truly present, you sense what others may not explicitly state. You perceive emotions beneath words, motivations behind actions, and fears or hopes hidden in silence. This awareness allows you to respond with compassion and insight, rather than assumption or judgment. Presence turns interactions into opportunities for understanding, trust, and connection. There is a paradox in presence. The more you focus outwardly on others, the more inwardly aware you become. By giving full attention to what is happening around you, you simultaneously cultivate awareness of your own inner state. Presence creates a feedback loop, observation, reflection, and engagement that strengthens both understanding and influence. Another vital aspect of presence is timing. When you are fully present, you sense the right moment to speak, to pause, to act. Words become intentional, not reactive. Gestures and expressions align with intention. Actions carry weight. The mastery of presence is mastery of timing, knowing when silence serves better than speech, when a question invites insight, and when attention itself conveys more than words ever could. Presence is also a form of resilience. Life constantly throws distractions, provocations, and challenges our way. When you are anchored in the present moment, you respond with clarity rather than reactivity. You navigate stress, conflict, and uncertainty with steadiness. Presence is the calm at the center of the storm, the clarity that allows you to choose your response rather than be swept away by circumstance. Practicing presence begins with small steps. Begin by noticing your breathing, the sensations in your body, or the sounds around you. Engage fully in routine tasks, whether it's washing dishes, walking, or listening to someone speak. When conversation arises, resist the urge to plan your response immediately. Observe, reflect, and then contribute. Over time, these small acts accumulate, and presence becomes natural, effortless, and profoundly impactful. Presence also enhances your capacity for learning. When you are fully engaged in a moment, you absorb details, insights, and patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed. Life becomes a teacher, conversations become lessons, and challenges become opportunities. Presence allows you to move beyond superficial understanding and into deep comprehension of people, situations, and yourself. As we close this chapter, recognize that presence is not a skill you merely practice once. It is a way of being, a continuous choice to engage fully, observe deeply, and respond intentionally. It amplifies the power of silence, observation, and thoughtful questioning. It transforms communication into connection, understanding into empathy, and interaction into influence. In the next chapter, we will explore the subtle yet profound impact of intention in all communication, how aligning your inner purpose with your outward expression shapes the quality of every interaction. Presence gives you the platform, but intention directs its power. Together they form the ultimate foundation for speaking less and understanding more. Prepare to step into the awareness that every word, pause, and action can carry meaning, and to discover how intentionality magnifies the effects of your presence in every moment of life. Chapter 9. Speaking with Intention. Have you ever noticed how a single word, carefully chosen and delivered at the right moment, can change the course of a conversation, or even a life? Words are powerful, but their power is amplified when guided by intention. Speaking without intention is like casting seeds into the wind. Some may land, most will be lost. Speaking with intention ensures that every word has purpose, clarity, and impact. This chapter is about learning to align what you say with the truth of what you mean and the effect you wish to create. Intention transforms communication from noise into meaning. It is the bridge between thought and expression, between awareness and action. When you speak with intention, you choose your words deliberately, with awareness of their weight, their timing, and their resonance. You are no longer a passive participant in conversation, reacting out of habit or emotion. You are a conscious creator, shaping understanding, connection, and influence. Imagine the difference between two people offering feedback. One speaks impulsively, voicing everything on their mind without reflection. The other pauses, observes, and then speaks with care, choosing words that teach, inspire, or guide. The first may be heard, but often misinterpreted or resisted. The second leaves an impression that lingers, fosters trust, and promotes understanding. That is the power of intention. Intention begins internally. Before uttering a single word, ask yourself, why am I speaking? What do I hope to accomplish? How will my words affect the listener? This reflection aligns your inner purpose with your outer expression. Without it, even accurate or truthful words can miss their mark, fall flat, or cause unintended harm. With it, your voice becomes a tool of clarity, influence, and transformation. Consider this: every question you ask carries intention. A question posed to provoke, to challenge, or to learn, each will shape the response you receive. Questions delivered with genuine curiosity invite openness, reflection, and dialogue. Questions without intention often provoke defensiveness, confusion, or superficial answers. Speaking with intention extends beyond statements. It includes the questions you ask, the tone you use, and the pauses you leave for thought to breathe. Timing is inseparable from intention. A word spoken too soon, too late, or in haste can distort meaning, weaken impact, or derail understanding. Speaking with intention includes the courage to pause, to listen, and to choose the precise moment when your words will carry maximum effect. Silence, when combined with intention, becomes a powerful amplifier, a way to draw attention, signal significance, and create space for reflection. Intentional speech also demands honesty and integrity. There is no intention in manipulation, deceit, or empty flattery. True intention aligns with truth, even when it is uncomfortable or difficult. It respects both the speaker and the listener. It communicates clearly and authentically. When your words are rooted in truth and guided by conscious purpose, they resonate with authenticity, inspire trust, and invite collaboration. Storytelling is a perfect example of speaking with intention. A story told without focus wanders and loses impact. A story told with intention, carefully structured, delivered with emotion, and aligned with a purpose, captivates, educates, and inspires. Whether you are sharing an experience, offering advice, or expressing emotion. Intention gives your words clarity, depth, and lasting impression. Intentional speech also strengthens influence. People naturally respond to those who communicate with clarity and purpose. They trust words that reflect thoughtfulness, attention, and awareness. Influence is not about volume, dominance, or persuasion. It is about alignment. The alignment of thought, intention, and expression. Every intentional word carries subtle authority. Every deliberate pause signals wisdom, and every carefully chosen phrase fosters understanding. Yet speaking with intention does not mean overthinking every word or suppressing natural expression. It is not rigidity, but mindfulness. It is awareness without stiffness, presence without tension, and authenticity without chaos. Intention is a compass, not a cage. It allows freedom within boundaries, creativity within structure, and expression within clarity. As we reflect on this, notice how intention intersects with everything we've discussed. Silence, listening, observation, presence. Silence creates space to think. Listening reveals meaning. Presence anchors awareness, and intention guides expression. Together they form a coherent approach to communication, a method for speaking less, understanding more, and making every word count. As we close this chapter, envision the conversations in your life, the ones that leave you inspired, understood, or connected. Chances are, the impact came from someone who spoke with intention. Now imagine infusing that same quality into your own communication. Imagine the clarity, trust, and connection you can cultivate. This is not a skill reserved for a few. It is available to anyone willing to pause, reflect, and speak with purpose. In the next chapter, we will bring all these elements together: silence, observation, listening, presence, and intention, to explore the art of true understanding. How to not just hear words, but to grasp the full meaning behind them, to perceive subtleties, and to respond with wisdom. This final chapter is where transformation becomes tangible, and the practice of speaking less and understanding more reaches its culmination. Prepare to integrate all that you have learned and step into the fullness of communication that transcends words and touches the heart of human connection. Chapter 10. Mastering Understanding. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of a quiet forest. The canopy above filters light into gentle streams, and the air is thick with the scent of earth and leaves. You hear the subtle rustle of creatures moving unseen, the distant call of a bird, the whisper of wind through the trees. Every sound carries meaning if you listen carefully. Understanding is exactly like this forest. It is not loud, it is not immediate, but it is profound. It requires attention, patience, and presence. This is the final chapter, the culmination of our journey towards speaking less and understanding more. Understanding is the ultimate goal of thoughtful communication. It is not simply knowing what someone said, but truly grasping the essence of what they meant, the feelings behind their words, and the context in which they speak. It is a skill of depth, a practice of awareness, and a reflection of empathy. Speaking less is the doorway. Understanding is what lies beyond. Consider how often we hear words without comprehending them. Conversations pass like ripples across a pond, touching the surface but never reaching the depths. People speak, we respond. Life moves on. Rarely do we pause to absorb meaning fully, to perceive emotion, intention, and nuance. True understanding demands more than attention. It demands engagement. It demands a willingness to enter another's experience without judgment, without distraction, without haste. Listening is the foundation of understanding. But this is not the casual hearing we do while our mind wanders elsewhere. This is active, intentional, and immersive listening. It is the art of noticing pauses, tone, and body language. It is sensing the unspoken, reading the subtle cues, and perceiving the emotions that words alone cannot convey. The more you practice this, the more you realize that what is left unsaid often carries the most profound truth. To understand is to step into another person's world, even briefly, and see through their eyes. It is to recognize their fears, their hopes, their reasoning, and their perspective. Imagine two people in disagreement. One argues louder, convinced of their correctness. The other listens deeply, seeking understanding before responding. Who will ultimately create connection, resolution, and insight? Understanding does not require agreement. It requires presence and empathy. Understanding is also self-reflective. To truly comprehend another, you must recognize your own biases, assumptions, and reactions. Awareness of your inner state, your emotions, preconceptions, and impulses allows you to separate them from the conversation, ensuring clarity and authenticity. Self-awareness and external awareness work together, like twin lenses, bringing the picture of reality into focus. Empathy amplifies understanding. When you empathize, you feel alongside others, not as a participant in their story, but as a witness who truly perceives the emotional landscape. This does not mean absorbing their pain or mirroring their emotions indiscriminately. Rather, it is a conscious recognition of what they experience and a thoughtful response that reflects compassion and insight. Empathy transforms observation into comprehension, and comprehension into meaningful connection. Silence remains an essential companion. In the stillness, understanding deepens. Pauses give time for reflection, allow ideas to settle, and provide space for emotions to surface. In conversation, silence is not emptiness. It is the soil in which meaning grows. The less we fill the space with impulsive words, the more we allow understanding to emerge naturally. Intention guides the application of understanding. Once you perceive meaning, emotion, and perspective, how do you respond? Your words, your actions, your energy must align with your insight. Thoughtful responses foster trust, create clarity, and promote collaboration. Misaligned responses, no matter how well-intentioned, can obscure understanding and disrupt connection. Speaking less gives space for perception. Intention ensures that perception manifests as effective, meaningful engagement. Mastering understanding is a lifelong practice. There is no endpoint, only continuous refinement. Every conversation, every interaction, every moment of listening offers opportunity for growth. Each time you resist impulsive speech, each time you observe before responding, each time you engage with presence and intention, you deepen your capacity for comprehension. You expand not only your awareness of others, but also your understanding of yourself. Let me leave you with a vision. Picture a life where you speak less, observe more, listen deeply, and respond intentionally. Conversations become opportunities for insight rather than competition. Relationships deepen because you truly see others. Decisions are clearer because you perceive the nuances that others overlook. Influence grows quietly, yet powerfully, because your presence and understanding create trust and resonance. This is the art of speaking less and understanding more, a practice that touches every aspect of life, from personal relationships to professional endeavors, from fleeting encounters to lifelong partnership. As we close this audiobook, remember that transformation begins in small, deliberate acts. A pause before speaking, a question asked with curiosity, a moment of genuine attention. These acts accumulate, creating a life defined not by the quantity of words, but by the quality of understanding. Your voice becomes precise, your mind becomes aware, and your heart becomes attuned. You will discover that in learning to speak less and understand more, you not only enhance your connection with others, but also unlock a deeper connection with yourself. Carry this practice forward. Let it shape your conversations, your relationships, and your inner life. Speak with purpose, listen with presence, and understand with empathy. Life becomes richer, more meaningful, and profoundly interconnected when each word is chosen wisely, Each silence is honored, and each interaction is approached with awareness. This is the culmination of the journey we began together. The steps are simple, yet profound. The practice is ongoing, yet rewarding, and the impact immeasurable. Every conversation, every moment of engagement, becomes an opportunity to deepen understanding, cultivate connection, and live with clarity, intention, and presence. Step forward into your life with the power of silence, the wisdom of observation, the depth of listening, the clarity of presence, the purpose of intention, and the mastery of understanding. You are ready. The journey does not end here. It begins anew with every interaction, every exchange, and every conscious choice to speak less and understand more.